assistant floor, and these are students in Rochester, New York at the World of Inquiry High School. They're in 8th grade, and we just completed reading The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and we read a section about you. In science, they've been studying cells and food and cancer, and also our service project is we have been working with the Teens Living with Cancer Center here in Rochester, New York, and they are raising money to donate to the Wilmot Cancer Center in the area. So I'm going to actually let the kids speak now, and we'll just get started if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Hello, Dr. Lengauer. My name is Moya, and I was wondering, did you help to develop any type of medications or vaccines using HeLa cells, and if so, which ones?
Yeah, I did, and there are a couple of them actually, and they are now used for patients with breast cancer and also with for patients with colon cancer.
Oh, okay.
Hello, sir. My name is Nigel. How long have you been working with Henrietta cells before you learned about her and her family?
Maybe 10 years or so, and I think that's because remember that was before the book was published, right? Therefore, we had a lot of cell lines when you are a scientist, and some of them have very strange names, like just numbers or so. Or sometimes they have a name like where the first two letters indicate the institution of cells were harvested, like, you know, UP 312 or whatever, that stands for University of Pennsylvania, for example. But when HeLa, think a little bit more about it, because, you know, it's abbreviation for a name, right? Therefore, you think like, I don't know about that, but you don't really know. And as it is in the book, you know, some people said that legs have legs, but I didn't know the story. Almost nobody for it. And so we worked on it. About 10 years later, I read about it.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Lengauer. My name is Brooklyn. I was wondering, what colleges did you go to, and did you always know that you wanted to be a scientist?
I think I was 17. I think that's where I knew I wanted to become a scientist. And the reason was is there were some members in my family who had cancer, and of my friend's parents had cancer, and nobody really knew how to help them. There was no good treatment, and at that time, when I was 17, a lot of discoveries were made in molecular genetics, and for the first time we had a hope that meant that understanding better molecular genetics could actually find a cure for it. And that's what I sort of thought, like, that's what I think.
Hello, Dr. Lengauer. My name is Kyle. I would like to know, how long do you think it would be until we find a cure for cancer rather than just treatments?
Actually, there are some cancers that can be cured already. And except not the ones we talked about. But there are now millions of cancer survivors actually out there. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. There's a lot of improvement has been made. die from cancer. And sometimes also increase. The reason for that is because more people are getting cancer than before. That's mainly because more people are living longer than before. And since people are living longer, more people are getting cancer, and more people die. Sure. That's bigger.
Sorry, Dr. Lengauer, can you just hold on one second? I want to see if I can adjust the speakers really quickly.
I can hear you well, but I have a little bit of feedback sounds on when I speak.
Okay. Can you just...
Yeah.
Oh, great, okay.
Whoa. Your microphone.
That's louder than we were hearing prior.
I didn't speak louder, I was just still the same kind of thing. Is better now?
Yeah, that's much better. It was just playing on the computer, not on the loudspeakers. But now we can hear you very clearly.
Good.
Good afternoon,
Did you get the answer from the question? You know, more patients are now, more people are not getting cancer because the patient population gets better. At the same time, because of the advancement, more people get cured. But there are still many cancers where we have no cure for. And every year there are new medication, and every year there will be more people who will not die from cancer because of that.
Good afternoon, Dr. Lengauer. I have two questions. How do you think cancer research has improved? And do you think that HeLa cells are still useful in helping find a cure?
Yes, HeLa cells will always be useful. And not only for cancer research, but for many other scientific discoveries as well. The reason is because despite the fact that we have now a lot of cell lines like the HeLa cells that we can use for studies, they are just such a common cell line that will impact science, I'm sure, for the next 100 years. For your second question, look, we make discoveries every day, and every day we are involved in sort of hearing new results from clinical studies. Now there are more than 500 different medicines tested in cancer, in patients, and some of them will work.
Good afternoon, Dr. Lengauer. Do you still work with HeLa cells? My name is Sam, and do you still work with HeLa cells in your current position? Are there any other immortal cell lines, and have you worked with them as well?
The people whom I help or who report to me they work with HeLa cells. I myself not. I just came from a job where 360 scientists were sort of reporting to me my help. Guides their discoveries. But now I'm in a smaller company where I'm the head of the research department there, and there we use it every day. But as I said before to your second question, now we have, I would say, about 1,000 cell lines that are like the HeLa cell line. Actually a little bit over 1,000, and the special thing about HeLa was that it was the first cell line that actually succeeded to be worked.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, doctor. My name is Shakara. Before you retire as a scientist, what is one goal you want to accomplish? Which seems impossible, but you know that scientists just might be possible.
You might have to say it again.
To have some time before I retire, I hope. When I became a scientist, I always wanted to have one big goal, which was to contribute to a medicine that helps cancer patients for one type of cancer. And but that I have already achieved. Now, as the first question was now, 3 medicines out there that I've contributed to that helps cancer patients. There also make millions of dollars, but that's not important for me. It's important that it helps cancer patients. And therefore my goal for the future is that we sort of make those medications even better, so that people do not have side effects. So some of the medications have big side effects, like people have diarrhea, or they vomit, or they collapse, or they have problems with their vision, and that's not good. I want to make sure that people continue to live without their cancer and stay a life that's a very normal life. But there's still some work to be done, and that's what I come up to contribute to.
What is the process you have to take in order to keep HeLa cells from contaminating other cells or cultures?
That's a complicated question. What the issue is that it's very easy to contaminate cell lines in general. You can think about it this way, like with bacteria. If you have one bacterium, it grows very, very quickly because it divides every 12 or 24 hours, and then you have, instead of one bacterium, you have 2. Instead of one cell, you have 2. And in the beginning, that's not a big deal, but from 2 to 4, that's the bigger step, and from 4, 16, so it's 8, and then 16, and then all of a sudden it goes very quickly. Contaminate very easily by just having one cell going into a flask or into a tube, which you and you have to be very careful about that, and that's the only measure you can really take, to be like super, super careful when it's very different.
Can you explain what the fish technique is and the role you played in developing this technique?
Fish, okay. The role I played is easy because I invented. One of the inventors is technology.
Hold on. Could you just go a little bit slower? It was kind of breaking up right there. Sometimes with the feed, you need to just speak a little bit slower. Sorry.
No problem. For fish technology, I'm one of the inventors of fish technology. We are both of like with all scientific discoveries, it's always teamwork. I was one of the inventors, and now I explain to you how fish works. That's not easy to explain, but we all humans have 46 chromosomes. And it's very difficult to discriminate those chromosomes. If you look at them, you cannot tell them apart. There were people who were for a long time trying to find ways how they can stain chromosomes so that they can tell which one is which. And the reason why they want to do that is because they see a mistake on a chromosome, like being shorter than regular one. You want to know that because it tells you this type of disease you have. But that has been super difficult. Therefore, what people did is they just number them by their size. chromosome 1 is the biggest one, and then it's 2 and 3 and close by size. Very often, the size is not easy to determine either. Therefore, we thought out of an approach where we can stain them or give them different colors. And we found a way that now each chromosome can be shown in its own color. 1 can be green, and 2 can be orange, and 3 can be red, and 4 can be purple. And just found a way of how to paint every chromosome with dyes. And since they are fluorescent dyes, it's called FISH, because FISH stands for first letter fluorescent. It's a dye that glows in the dark, soda, like handbands or those necklaces, sometimes that you can buy pairs of those, the same in the dark, the glow in the dark. That's the same what we do for chromosomes. Each chromosome glows in its own fluorescent color.
Are you still in contact with Rebecca or any other Lax family members?
Yes. I just actually had a Facebook conversation yesterday with Rebecca. It was her day in the New York Times. I was, and we definitely book. And 3 weeks ago, I gave a presentation at a community college, and very similar like you, they had questions about the cells and about family, and 3 members of the Lax family were here together with me, and we caught up of what's going on in the family. But yeah, I'm still in contact a lot with both Rebecca and
Where are you currently working on developing at Blueprint Medicines? Are you still conducting research using HeLa cells?
Yes, we use the cell a lot, every day. And we are working on 2 medicines. One is for stomach cancer, and one is for liver cancer.
What do you think of the way medical research is conducted in the past, and do you think medical research is currently more ethically sound?
I don't know. I'm not sure a lot of things are ethically sound in this world anyway. You think teaching at schools is ethically more sound today than it was 50 years ago? It's a very complicated question. Of course, today we have what we call patient consent. Your patients have to be informed what to do with their blood or with their tissues or their cells. There's much more regulation today of what you have to inform patients or what you can do. But that doesn't mean that the scientists or doctors or people involved are better people. It doesn't mean that the regulations that we have and the laws that we have are helping sort of making sure that the world is in a better place. So it's a super complicated question. I think in general our society, I'm not so sure that despite the fact that we are doing a better job in saying what is allowed and not allowed, I'm not sure that our world kind of a better place for the next 50 years.
Why did you decide to go into the area of oncology?
Because I saw friends and people die, and I think having a job, when people ask you what you do and you say you make medicines that help people instead of dying live, that's a pretty cool thing, right? Other people say they sell bottled water or something, or, you know. I mean, that's good too, but it's different. When people ask me what I do, is I say that I make medicines that instead of people making them die, instead of people dying, make them live. And I think that's, as I said, a pretty cool job.
If you could talk to Henrietta Lacks and ask her one question today, what would it be and why?
But I think I would ask her, if she actually really likes the fact that not everybody knows about her life. Because in one sense, it's good that we all appreciate what she contributed for science. At the same time, now, when you have read the book, we know everything. We know every detail about her family, and we know everything about her children, and that's good, bad things. And by now, millions of people have read about her life, and I would like to know if she actually really likes that. And that's a good question, because I don't know if you know that HBO bought the copyright, the book, and it's Oprah Winfrey who directed the movie, and then everybody, you know, will see the movie about this, and not only the book. And I actually think that's great for the family, but at the same time, a lot about her privacy will be revealed, and I'd like to know if she likes that.
What do you think of the novel The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks? Did you think it was an actual portrayal of the events, especially for the portions written about you?
Yes, I mean, of course, this is the way it works. Rebecca's Clue sort of, she tapes everything. I mean, this woman, I always said to her, you're crazy, right? I mean, you have to see it this way. I mean, this woman was like, after college, got obsessed with the idea of writing a book about cells. And whenever she sort of was asked, what are you doing, right? You know, she was saying, I write a book about cells, and people were like, ugh, you know, it's like, she's like, it's really interesting. You're like, you're crazy. And then for 10, 15 years, she was running around, taping everything, you know, finding out everything, asking all that questions. And I'm like, that's a weird way of thinking about your future. You just ask me the question what you want to become, right? And when they ask her, she's like, I'll become a famous author because I'm writing a book about cells and it will take me 10 years. That's sort of how it started. But it helped her with the book so much because it made sure that everything that she observed, she got right. Because of tapes and because of taking notes. And when the manuscript was written, she asked every person involved if that's actually correct. And I read my portion, and everybody else read their portion, and that's the way she made sure that everybody that she got it right. Rebecca actually asked me then also to read all other portions of the book. If I read all the scientific elements, and then later on I edited the whole book of her actually. And therefore I read the book when it was still a Word document. I didn't read it when it was then in the shelves in the first. And nobody actually has complained from the people involved and from the scientists and from the family that things that she had written were inaccurate. And I think that's a major achievement for my daughter. But it tells you, sort of as a student also, that the most accurate way of describing things is to take super careful notes and to get feedback from a lot of people and tape things, and that makes sure that you're accurate.
Why did you give Zakaria and Deborah a tour of the lab at Hopkins?
You know, everybody asks me that question. You know, why did you choose the cells, and how did you feel when you showed the cells to the family? And actually, when I did it, I didn't think it was a big deal at the moment. But now, like after having read the book and everything, I noticed it's a big deal. But at the time, you know, I think when you do good things, you're just doing it because you think it's the right thing. But there's a little bit of a story, right, to it, because as you know, I found out about a little bit about the family, that they lived very close to Johns Hopkins Hospital, and that they had no health care. And I'm like, hey, this is a people cell family, and like, the cells were grown at Hopkins, and why is nobody saying thank you from Hopkins? That was my first reaction. And I contacted the dean and the president of Johns Hopkins and said like, hey, why don't you do something? It's just like to say thank you, or you can invite them for dinner. You don't have to give them money necessarily, but just say thank you. And then the dean asked his team, and the legal advisors of Johns Hopkins said he should not do that. And the reason was they were afraid that when you say thank you, that this indicates that you owe something to the family. Therefore, when you say thank you, it always means like you thank somebody for something. And they didn't want that Hopkins expresses that the Lex family did something for Johns Hopkins. Therefore, and that was the reason why Hopkins has never really said thank you to the family, because out of that fear. But for myself, I was like, I don't care. I can do what I want, you know, and I want to make sure that somebody on this scientific world, you know, from Hopkins, does a very simple thing, which is get to see the family and say thank you, and hear the cells, and because they're interested in seeing this. And I just thought that's totally normal, and I'm not afraid of anything. That's sort of what happened.
As a scientist, what do you see as your greatest accomplishment?
You know, the only way we can sort of find cures for cancer is to understand the disease better. You can't just go out there and like, I make a medicine. Like, how would you do this, right? You need to understand how cancer develops and what those cells do and what's going wrong compared to normal cells, and that's super, super difficult. And we now know very well what happens from a normal cell to become a cancer cell. And that's really complicated because we cannot see that. Even in the microscope, we can't see it because what we are looking at is much, much smaller. Okay? I'll give you an example for that in a second. But I have helped sustain our cancer. And as an example, just to get a feeling how difficult that is. Yeah, when we make a drug for cancer, we manipulate sort of chemical molecules, okay? And the molecules we look at have a certain size. And there's even a unit for it. It's not inches, it's not like miles, you know, it's like what we call angstrom. An angstrom is very, very small. And I'll give you an example. When you're sitting right now on some chair, okay? Between your skirt or your pants and the chair, there's actually a space. When you think you're touching the chair, but that's not true. Okay, there's a small space between your pants and the chair you are sitting on. Okay? And that space has a size of about 10 angstroms. And when we look at molecules, we look at molecules that are 1 angstrom. You're looking at the space that is 10-fold smaller than the space that is between your pants and your chair.
Okay. We know you travel and conducted research all over the world. Do other countries also use hair cells in their research?
Yeah, everybody. And everywhere can be certain wherever there is done any form of biological research in any country, you can think of HeLa cells are used.
We read about Dr. Gartler uncovering what was then called the HeLa bomb. Is this a major concern in laboratories who carry HeLa cells?
Yeah, it's a big concern, but as we discussed a little bit earlier, we are very careful we are dealing with it. But at the time, it was a big issue. All of a sudden, you found HeLa cells in spaces you didn't want to have them. Now it's much.
How did meeting Rebecca Skloot and Deborah and Zachariah change your life, or did it change your life at all?
It didn't change my life, but it changed their lives.
All right, so for our panel, we're pretty much done with questions, but I know there's some people in the audience who do have a few questions, so I'm going to allow them to ask their questions as well. All right, Malik. Can you stop?
Are you still in contact with Rebecca Skloot, and in what capacity?
Yeah, I said before, you know, I said Facebook there yesterday, and but
I'm sorry, they're giggling, so just wait a second, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in contact with her a lot, and she became a good friend of mine, and there's still so much work that needs to be done, also in the context of making our research more ethical, but we talk about a lot of other things. Like she's writing now a new book, and the new book will be very interesting because it's about animals. It's about what animals think and how animals feel.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there any way you'd be willing to send us a blown up fluorescent photo of the HeLa cell and sign it?
Wait, what was the question?
She asked if there's any way you'd be able to send us a picture of the blown up HeLa cell and sign it for us.
No, I'm kidding. I can do it. I can do that.
No, you can send two so you can have one in the
No way.
Did a company contact you to help with the science on the Henrietta Lacks movie?
Say it again. I couldn't hear it at the beginning.
Did Open Free Company contact you with the science, to help you with the science on the Henrietta Lacks movie?
Yeah, I spoke with the screenwriter because they're trying to figure out how to. There will be a scene in there when I show the Lacks family, the cells, an important scene in the movie, and I sort of.
So are you going to be playing yourself in the movie?
And also some questions of what I consider, like very much what the questions you had asked. What I think about it, about the science, about the family, and what I felt, how it was, and yeah, that's why I'm in contact with them. Kind of interesting. We'll see what that movie will look like.
Do you know when it's supposed to be coming out?
No, I don't know. I just know I got a high priority within HBO, which means it's one of the 3 movies that they are considering most important for them. But it takes a while always to make those movies, but it's a high priority.
All right. Did anybody else have a question? I think, Shakar, you have another question, Mike? Oh, Shakar, here, go ahead. Do you have one?
Yeah, turn on. How do you think Henrietta and the Lacks family feel about Henrietta's never mind. Oh.
That's okay. All right, never mind. Is there anybody else that would have a question?
I got it.
No? Okay. Hold on. Dr. Lengauer, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask us at this time?
Maybe if somebody could answer, like, if somebody asked you what did you learn for yourself from the book, from reading their book? Like, what was your, do you have any, if somebody could say, or several people, like, what was your first kind of reaction? If somebody, like a friend who hadn't read the book, and you said, I had to read this book, it was cool, or whatever, like, what do you say? Do you say you liked it, or do you say it was boring, or complicated, or do you go like, hey, no, I learned this cool thing, or like, or that, or was it really, what was your, like when you talk about a movie that you have seen with a friend, you go like, hey, you have to see this because it's whatever, or it's like, it's totally overrated because it's like that, sort of, when somebody asks you, like, this book, what's your response?
All right, is there anybody who'd like to talk and respond to his question about what they thought about the book? Go ahead, Brianna. Tell them what you thought about the book. Folks, yeah, like if somebody asked you about it, what would you tell them about the book? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it?
That the book was interesting, and I didn't like how it was going back. It was good.
You didn't like how it was going back and forth?
I did.
Okay. You liked how it was going back and forth?
I like it.
All right. You have a question, Trevante? No? All right. So I think overall, in general, a majority of them liked the book. Some of them didn't like how it was going back and forth.
I just don't like how we had it.
I don't think they liked that it was super long. I think they didn't like that part about it. And there was a lot of science in it that was perhaps a little bit over their heads. But other than that, I think as far as the story goes, the majority of them liked it.
I love it.
Is there anything else you would like to ask us at this time?
Sure, I have one more question. It's like, now take the part of the Lex family in the book. Do you think it's a crazy story? It's all real, right? Do you think, because you also compare it to your family, is it a crazy family, or do you think that's normal, or is it like totally different, you think, from other families, or how do you see that?
What do you think about the Lex family?
I think that it's very different, and from what they went through with all the research and medical help, and what happened with Zakaria and stuff like that.
Did you think the Zakaria part of the book was probably one of the most interesting?
Nope.
Do you know somebody like Zakaria?
Yeah, we live in Rochester,
Unfortunately, yes. Okay. So they know people like Zakaria, so that's I don't know if that's scary or a good thing. All right. Okay. Shakara, did you work out your question that you wanted to ask? Okay, I'll let you ask it. Go ahead.
How do you think Henrietta Lacks and her family feel about her cells being taken without permission?
Be what? How did it feel?
She said.
I thought you hear the end of it.
That's okay. I know we read about it, but she wanted to know what was your impression of how the Lacks family felt about the cells being taken?
I think it's a super question. You know, the family, they were so angry. And because when I said to Rebecca, like, you know what, I want them to come to Hopkins, go to my lab, I want to say thank you, and I want to show them the cells. And she said, that's amazing. It's the first time somebody said that. But Christoph, you know what? That will be super complicated. And I go, like, what's complicated about that? And because I didn't know the story. And then only after reading the book, sort of I understood. The family was so angry. And today it's much better, and I hope I helped them with it. And they are so afraid still about Hopkins. If you actually live in eastern Baltimore, very close to the hospital, almost all families there are African American and sort of Hispanic immigrants. And if you ask the kids there, they today still think that actually the Hopkins doctors are walking around and taking kids from the street and then do experiments on them. Of course, that's not true, but there's still so much fear and anger about sort of the Hopkins doctors, and I found that interesting. Now that's much better. Now they are very proud of the cells and what, you know, Henrietta did for the science, and now they're in a good place.
All right. I think we have one more question. Go ahead.
Have you visited Henrietta's tombstone?
No, I would love to. I've never been there. I've seen a lot of pictures, and actually every year there is now on her birthday a celebration in that small village, and maybe this year I'll go to that celebration, and because I would like to see that myself. I've never been there.
All right, great. I think that's it for our questions, so we can let you go a little bit early because we know you're quite busy. I'll be in contact with Flor because we'll be sending you some thank you notes, and we'll be excited to get the autographed copy of the Heliocell. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.